Today is expected to be up in the Bay Area and really over into the Sacramento Valley, where it has been raining heavily today. That rain will slowly creep to the south throughout the day, but by tomorrow, another storm system will move in, and that one isn't the last one. We see at least 3 more out there to move in, and we don't know for sure yet, but obviously a lot of people are speculating this has to do with the El Nino. If that is accurate, there is nothing to believe that more storms would not form in this train of them that have been moving into the West Coast. Let's take a look at our forecast weather map for tomorrow night, and you can see that yet another storm during the day tomorrow will move inland. Not only will it be producing lots of rain, but it will also be producing snowfall at the higher elevations of the Sierra, and there's also snowfall expected in the mountains in Southern California in the Tehachapies. Now, the rainfall is not expected to be as heavy today as it was yesterday, obviously. And tomorrow, for most areas in California, they're talking about scattered showers. But it is already flooded, so lower rainfall amounts could cause problems just as big. It's not just the 7 inches they got yesterday, but the 3 or 4 inches they got before that, and maybe the 2 or 3 inches that they'll see coming in out of the next storm, and the next storm, and the next storm. More weather later in the hour. Now back to Sharyl.
All right, Flip. An environmental group claims the Pentagon is one of the ozone layer's worst enemies, that the Pentagon is not moving fast enough to phase out the use of ozone-destroying chemicals. A report by the National Toxics Campaign says that military contractors account for nearly 40% of U.S. emissions of CFC-113s. That's a chemical that creates holes in the Earth's ozone layer, a protective shield against excess ultraviolet radiation.
The report today shows that the U.S. government, through the Department of Defense, Department of Energy, and NASA itself, is responsible for more ozone layer destruction than anyone had previously calculated. The National Toxic Campaign looked at the most recent available data and found that 26 major Department of Defense plants or contractors and 3 major weapons plants were responsible for over 7 million pounds of the CFC-113 emission per year.
The Defense Department says it's concerned about the use of chlorofluorocarbons by its contractors, but a spokesman says he doesn't have figures for the specific chemical cited by the National Toxic Campaign. The Pentagon says its most recent figures show that overall it purchased only 1% of all CFCs produced in the U.S. in 1986.
General Motors ups the ante in the swelling Buy America movement. This time it applies to suppliers of parts and other materials. Some GM suppliers are giving employees money, sometimes as much as thousands of dollars, towards the purchase of cars built in North America. So GM now says it will match that amount, but only for the purchase of GM cars, including those made outside the United States. Buy American has become a rallying cry for the U.S. auto industry lately, but critics point out that it's becoming harder and harder to figure out exactly what is an American car. CNN's Mike Capps sorts out the complications.
Ford's Escort assembled in Mexico. Its Crown Victoria built in Canada. Dozens of vehicles built by GM, Chrysler, and Ford contain parts from other countries.
And then it's assembled in Canada by a Japanese company and sold to Mitsubishi and then sold back again to Chrysler. Is that an American car or not?
Huizenga argues no car is truly U.S. made. The Buy America movement, he says, ignores the fact that 400,000 U.S. citizens owe their livelihoods to the international automobile industry.
We are in a worldwide recession, and that's why the danger of imposing a Buy America solution on America will only serve to force the rest of the world into greater economic hardship.
This Dallas Chevrolet dealer disagrees. He believes his business will suffer without Buy American emphasis. Sales of domestic automobiles fell 11.5% in 1991. The dealer insists the numbers won't change unless more U.S. citizens start buying American.
We really invented the industry. We build the finest cars that are available anywhere, and I think it's time to take pride in America and support our working man.
At this suburban Dallas Ford dealership, its owner acknowledges his main concerns are his customers and U.S. products. But he believes a Buy American approach may be too direct.
We've improved our product, and so now, in many instances, our product is better or equal to many of the foreign cars. So, as a Ford dealer, I really would like to see people try America. We can't make people buy anything.
But there could be good long-term news for the worldwide automobile industry. International dealers believe the former Soviet Union will eventually provide an expanded new marketplace once it's recovered economically.
The Russians have spent the last 70 years buying Russia, and it destroyed their economy and ultimately destroyed their country.
Huizenga and other international auto dealers believe if the U.S. shuts its economic doors and Buy American flourishes, car dealers worldwide will suffer. Mike Capps, CNN, Dallas.
A week before the New Hampshire presidential primary, and the Democrats have a new statistical frontrunner there. The CNN USA Today Gallup tracking poll of New Hampshire voters says former Senator Paul Tsongas from next door Massachusetts has pulled ahead of Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton. Tsongas is the favorite of 33% of those polled. Clinton, who was the frontrunner until this latest poll, has 26%. While the top two swapped positions, number 3 held firm. 13% of those polled say they would vote for Senator Bob Kerrey of Nebraska. The margin of error for the tracking poll is plus or minus 5%. Senator Tom Harkin of Iowa finished 4th with 11%. Former California Governor Jerry Brown, 8%. 9% of Democrats surveyed remained unsatisfied or undecided. On the Republican side, President Bush is still the favorite among New Hampshire voters. His 64% remains comfortably ahead of his only GOP challenger, Pat Buchanan.
That poll did not reflect what effect, if any, last night's Iowa caucuses will have on voters. Favorite son Tom Harkin dominated those caucuses, winning almost 80% of the vote. No surprise, though, since Harkin is from Iowa, and his Democratic opponents did not campaign much there and conceded him the victory. Still, Harkin said he finished far better than he ever imagined, and he tried to put the best spin on the win.
I think the message that it sends, not only to New Hampshire, but to the rest of the country, is that the people who know me the best are willing to give me that kind of strong support. And I find it very curious that none of the other candidates even came here to campaign. I have support groups in Arkansas, in Nebraska, California, Massachusetts. I'm not afraid to go there to campaign. I don't know why they didn't come here to campaign.
Other Democrats said they doubted the Iowa win would do Harkin much good. Republicans in Iowa held caucus meetings last night, but since President Bush went unchallenged there, they held no straw votes on candidates.
The U.S. Supreme Court has refused to block the deportation of thousands of Haitian refugees, but it has left the door open for such action later this week. The U.S. has already returned more than 2,000 refugees. Thousands more are being held at Guantanamo, Cuba, awaiting deportation. But the Haitian Refugee Center in Miami says some of those already returned have been tortured and killed. The center says the Bush administration knew that before the latest repatriations began. The Supreme Court has given the White House until Friday to answer those charges.
Still ahead on the CNN News Day, dozens of supporters and reporters greet Mike Tyson as he begins a new fight to remain free.
Suburban America so far is ducking predictions of widespread AIDS. Are people getting personal before they get intimate?
And it once was a potential dream drug for dairies, but it has become a potential nightmare for the public. All ahead.
Usually, when you send flowers out of town, you give the order to somebody who takes a cut. Then he passes the order to somebody else who takes a cut. But now there's Flowers Direct that actually lets you speak to a florist in the town where you're sending the flowers. Flowers Direct, or We Cut, is the middleman. Call Flowers Direct now, 1-800-621-2121.
I was going through some trade confirmations, and bang, it hit me.
This has got to stop.
My broker talked me into something I didn't want. It's not doing well, and I still paid all this commission.
Common sense says you shouldn't pay for advice you don't want. That's why active investors come to Fidelity for discount brokerage and save up to 65% on stock and option commissions.
Yesterday before work, I called my broker. Not in. Called at lunchtime. Out.
Gone for the day.
Called after work. Gone.
No.
You can trade round the clock and enjoy the great service that's made Fidelity America's largest mutual fund company. At locations nationwide, even by PC with never a sales pitch. Over 2 million investors know it's easy doing business with Fidelity. Call Fidelity now for this free excerpt from the bestseller One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch, plus everything you need to get started. Call 1-800-842-7900. Fidelity Investments. Common sense. Uncommon results.
With 5 powerful cleaning agents, Fantastic not only outcleans all others on greasy kitchen dirt, it's the perfect do-it-yourself cleaning kit for almost every surface in your kitchen and bath. 5 Cleaner Fantastic. More power, more places.
Educators, put the power of video into your classroom and honor Black History Month. Turner Multimedia has a unique library of programs that examine today's issues and the contributions of Black men and women. For a free catalog, call 1-800-344-6219.
Guilty on 1 count of rape, 2 counts of deviant criminal conduct, Mike Tyson faces years in prison and a crumbling career. Tyson, looking grave as he entered the courthouse today, ignored fans and screams of support. Tyson attended a probation meeting in preparation for his sentencing March 6th. He faces up to 60 years in prison for raping a beauty queen last July. However, a deputy prosecutor predicts Tyson is more likely to receive between 7 and 11 years. Jurors say they looked beyond the bedroom to determine Tyson's guilt.
I don't think there was just one compelling piece.
I think we looked at not only, for example, a moment in the bedroom, but a chain of events that occurred over a period of time that evening.
I would like to see more date rape people maybe come forward with a little bit of hope that, you know, there's somebody there that they don't have to live with it forever.
Tyson isn't technically barred from boxing until he's placed behind bars, but state boxing commissions could refuse to sanction any match, and his athletic future remains very much in doubt.
Dire predictions that AIDS would spread rapidly among heterosexuals in the United States have yet to come true. Some government experts dismiss those forecasts. They say homosexual men, intravenous drug users, and their sexual partners still account for nearly all the cases of AIDS. CNN medical correspondent Dan Rutz reports on AIDS in the 90s.
Staten Island, New York is a short commute from the highest concentration of confirmed AIDS cases in the world. 3 years ago, Dr. Jordan Glazer was the first to describe the spread of AIDS from homosexual and inner-city enclaves to middle-class suburbia.
This little island here that's in the backyard of a major epidemic, there's a lot to learn from our experience here. So how you been coming along?
Okay.
Hanging in?
Good.
Dr. Glazer still sees patients who acquired AIDS heterosexually. Most are women whose male partners got AIDS injecting illegal drugs. But there's been no wildfire spread. He says one reason is the biology of the virus, most closely linked to AIDS. HIV is spread sexually, but the chance depends in part on sexual practices. Rectal intercourse appears to be much riskier than vaginal sex.
Once the partner, the man, is diagnosed with HIV, what amazes a lot of the women is that 3 out of 4 times they're negative.
Anne was not so fortunate.
Well, now that I think about it, we were definitely at risk because my husband is an alcoholic and has a cocaine problem, and there was a lot of promiscuous behavior.
Anne may be an exception, but stories like hers add to confusion over how far AIDS is spreading and who should be most worried about catching it.
The public wants to view this at one extreme or another. Either they want to say, it's not a problem at all, I don't need to worry about it, or this is terrible, I need to worry about it all the time. And the truth is that it's somewhere in between. It is a real problem.
There's no explosion in new cases of heterosexual AIDS here, just a slow increase. Still, reason enough, some say, to get personal before becoming intimate.
The most important things about, let's say, a woman marrying a man is whether that man used IV drugs or whether that man is bisexual. Promiscuity, in terms of a risk, is probably a greater risk in the inner city areas. Whether it's becoming a risk in more suburban areas, I don't know yet, and that's what we'll have to wait and see.
And I said, I'd like to know where he got it and maybe who else he possibly infected. And he was like, it doesn't matter, I don't know where I got it from, and he was just real quiet about it.
In another New York suburb, Heather Doyle struggles with full-fledged AIDS, caught from the man she married and buried.
And some days I get real upset and depressed and mad. I feel like it's stripped me of a lot of things, you know, having a family, children. I feel it's not fair. You know, what did I do?
New York City accommodates a range of sexual interests. Illicit drugs are at hand. Anonymity is practically assured. Such convenience in the center of the AIDS epidemic among gays and IV drug abusers bolstered early forecasts that AIDS would quickly spread beyond the inner city. In New York, it hasn't happened. In recent years, Staten Island's share of New York City's AIDS cases has held steady. But encouraging statistics don't help people like Heather Doyle. And public health experts worry that some people may use any good news about AIDS as an excuse to be reckless.
And we're telling people that overall, the average heterosexual in this country is not at very high risk for HIV infection. On the other hand, it's such a terrible disease, and it's so completely avoidable. Why take a chance?
More in our next report on weighing and reducing the risk for heterosexual AIDS. Dan Rutz, CNN, New York.
News for Medicine is brought to you by Bristol-Myers Squibb Company, makers of new day-night contracts. Finally, day and night cold medicines together in one package.
Hey, I thought you were home with a miserable cold.
I was, but now I feel better.
Well, did you take Sudafed for your stuffy nose?
No, I took Comtrax. It does it all.
Chlortrimeton for your sneezing.
I only took Comtrax.
Regular Tylenol for your aches and pains? Benylin DM for your cough.
All I took was Comtrax.
She'd have had to take each of these just to get all the relief that's in 2 Comtrax. Comtrax does it all. Also, look for new non-drowsy Comtrax.